Breer writing a little mailbag today about life after Bill. He says Josh McDaniels, his availability would be, of course, contingent on McDaniels not landing a head coaching job somewhere else. What about Bill O'Brien? He says the Krafts really like him, and had Belichick left a couple of years ago when things weren't great in the Patriots building, I believe O'Brien would have been a short lister in Foxborough. He finishes it off with Ryan Day, saying Day's a New England native. Of a few years down the line, New England were among his suitors. I can see where it might be hard for him to say no, but there was a notable absence on that list. And Breer, mea culpa on Twitter. He said, in here I was asked for names of potential successors to Bill Belichick. I gave 3. The number really should have been 4. I'd expect whenever the time comes that linebackers coach Jerod Mayo would absolutely be a contender for the job. Bad oversight by me, and I'm going to add him now. All right, this story is where we begin the Daily Thread with the aforementioned Burt Breer and Tom E. Curran. Burt, how do you forget Jerod Mayo? How'd that happen?
I know. Quick Slants alum. That's Tom's coaching trait, too. It's a real sign of disrespect. I'm sorry, Tom.
That's okay, my guy. You know, it's funny. Last year I mentioned him in the offseason. Actually, around this time, we were down in Tennessee, and I mentioned, keep your eye on Jerod Mayo for a variety of reasons. One being his economic background and business background. This is a guy who went to Optum as an executive, did a fantastic job. He's been a business owner. He has unbelievable acumen. He is charismatic. He's a great leader. He's extremely smart. He was an accomplished player. And in a league that absolutely is striving for more diversity, he would check that box. And I think the Krafts will be real happy to have him there. But you've also got the most accomplished OC that I think is really in the league now and has been for the last decade and a half. But why Ryan Day, Albert?
Well, because I think that's sort of where the NFL is going right now. And I've talked about Lincoln Riley at Oklahoma over the last couple of years as being a target, and teams have kicked the tires on him consistently through the last 3 or so coaching cycles, and there will be a job in the NFL waiting for him. Ryan Day is creeping into that territory now where NFL people are starting to talk about Ryan Day the same way they talk about Lincoln Riley. He develops quarterbacks. He's had 3 first-round quarterbacks at Ohio State. Joe Burrow worked with him there. And then, of course, Dwayne Haskins and Justin Fields, attracting the top high school quarterbacks in the country now. So I think that's a big piece of it, that he's an offensive coach, like very, very innovative, and a developer of quarterbacks. There's also a relationship between the Kraft family and Ohio State. Robert Kraft became close with Urban Meyer. And so Robert Kraft's been around the Ohio State program. And then I think there's a local part of it, too. Like, I don't think Ryan Day is looking to leave Ohio State tomorrow. I think he'd probably, be there for the next decade or so. But I think this is one of those jobs where if they came calling, I think it'd be hard for him to say no. And so I think there are a few things that match up there where I think the Krafts could look at it and say Ryan Day is where the NFL is going. So it makes sense for us to take a look at somebody like that.
Curran, all of that sounds great in theory, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm probably forgetting a name, but other than Pete Carroll, I can't think of a ton of college coaches who have made a smooth or successful transition to the NFL. It just doesn't happen very often.
No, and I think that Albert could probably pluck a name or two. Without a whole bunch here, Albert, give me 4 names, 4 names. I mean, Matt Rule popped up.
Of college coach?
Yeah, just
college coaches.
Who've been successful.
Guys that have worked.
NFL.
I mean,
just like 3 or 4 names.
Jimmy Johnson. Jimmy Johnson's been was obviously really successful way back in the day. I think Matt Rule has shown some promise here. Jim Harbaugh came from the college game. Now he, of course, had NFL experience as a player,
but it's you're going way back. To me, what will be interesting, Trenni and Burt, in watching this is how much say and weight does Bill Belichick carry in picking his successor? I think it'll be interesting to see if he tries to maybe anoint someone and set it up. But there'll be a point at which I think the Krafts are going to say, well, appreciate it. We're going to make this decision, though, and it might be independent of your recommendation.
Burt, do you really think that the Krafts would be high on a guy like Bill O'Brien, who went to Houston and, despite having a lot of weapons, really couldn't do much there? Or is it a case of, okay, he didn't do great in his first go-around, but his second go-around is where he's going to find his footing?
Well, I mean, is Bill O'Brien's reputation right now worse than Bill Belichick's was coming out of Cleveland? I don't think it is. I mean, he was in the playoffs 4 times in a 5-year span. He won with mediocre quarterbacking until they got Deshaun Watson. And really his problem wasn't coaching. It was how the organization was set up and ultimately making some really questionable personnel decisions at the end. But, I think you could look at him and say, like he does a lot of things right, and we had him here, and he's not going to be somebody who's going to be intimidated by the shadow of Bill Belichick. And I also think that people that the Crafts know are going to recommend him. And I think one of the guys who'd be at the top of that list, Tom, would be the old quarterback, Tom Brady, And so I think there are a lot of things with Bill OBrien where you look at it and you say, he's a smart guy. He's going to learn from his last experience. Maybe you don't want to hire him into the role Bill Belichick's playing, where it's an all-powerful role. Mm-hmm. But as the head coach, I think he could do a lot worse. And I don't think he'd be considered as big a reclamation project as Bill Belichick was back in 2000.